Ladies and gentlemen, please help me bring to the stage Tricia Allen.
So I thought I would tell you how I became an actor. Once upon a time, I heard a story where Cher was talking in an interview. And she was saying that she had this moment when she was a child. She was in the theater and she saw Cinderella. And she saw her and she went, that's it. And I thought, well, I can relate to that. I mean, she was so beautiful. And of all the Disney princesses, she's got the best voice and the best clothes. And she's very elegant and she's graceful. And my experience was kind of like that, except I wanted to be Han Solo.
Yes!
I know, right? Because he was badass, right? So it was something about the fact that, you know, he could outrun an entire Imperial fleet. He could run screaming down a hallway with a blaster and chase off 30 stormtroopers, 300 if you saw the special edition version. And he was just confident, and he was funny, and he was fearless. And that is what I wanted to be. I was a normal kid growing up around here, and I was okay in school, except gym. My cousin and I were in the same gym class, and she was a born athlete. And we had this horrible gym teacher with this kinky, tight blonde hair and these really tight gym socks. It was the 70s, you know, and there were stripes around them and all of this, and there were these ropes. I don't know if anybody else was subjected to this horrific endeavor, but there were these ropes that you had to shimmy up, and he would blow a whistle, and 2 people would go. And so I jumped on the rope, and I'm like, oh, ow, I'm getting like splinters. I'm like really unhappy about the whole situation. And the rope, and he blows the whistle, and my cousin's at the top, and I'm still there. So I figured that, you know, my career in professional sports was never going to happen. So I decided then that I was going to be a scholar, I guess. But then one night, my mom and dad took me to the movies. And this wasn't unusual. My mom and dad and I love to go to the movies. Sometimes, because you know Cincinnati has those like gray, rainy days, sometimes we'd spend all of those at the theater. We would go from movie to movie to movie, and it would be dark by the time we got out, and those were great times. But this one night, we went to the Northgate Cinema, and I had never in my life seen Northgate Mall Cinema packed. Like the whole lobby was filled with people, and they had programs. And I'm like, what? Right? You know, I had no idea what was going on. And I went in and I sat down, and this movie started. And from the blast of the fanfare to the opening crawl to the Star Destroyer that flew over my head, and I did look up at the ceiling to see where the rest of it was. That was it. And I still really can't explain it all, but it was magic. And I walked out of the theater that night, and I had never in my life felt the world was brand new, and it was so full of magic and possibility. And I remember the way the air smelled, and rolling down the window in the back seat of the car and looking up at the stars and thinking absolutely anything is possible in Cincinnati, Ohio. Right? And it was, I think my enthusiasm was infectious because I got my folks on board. My dad and I made costumes together and played Star Wars, and my first year I was C-3PO because I really wasn't ready for the gender bending yet. Yeah. And then my second year I was Chewbacca, and my grandmother made this awesome fur costume, and we took those Kodak film boxes and wrapped them in aluminum foil and strapped them on with electrical tape onto a Santa Claus belt. That was awesome. That is OG right there. So anyway, so then finally I got the nerve to be Han Solo. And I had the whole costume complete with everything but the little stripes on the side because my grandma couldn't get that worked out and I didn't know how to sew yet. So I drank blue milk. I did things like tape recording, telephone pole wires. I'd hit them with wrenches because that's how you had to make the sounds. And I was going to make a movie and it was going to be genius. And I remember I got my Super 8 camera and a notebook and I started writing a script. And I was going to be Han Solo's cousin because it was my movie and I was going to be the hero. And her name was Andromeda Doricus. I really don't know where that last name came from. It's like really absurd, I still don't know. But anyway, so I wrote this whole thing and I had my Super 8 camera and my notebook and I got all the kids in the neighborhood together and I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And they were all like, yeah, whatever. And so, like, it never happened. So I thought, well, my directing and spin-off's never going to happen. So then high school and college went by and I kind of put my nerdiness on the down low because evidently boys don't like it if you're into stuff like that. And I was, kind of looking for boys and that. Anyway, so after college, I met my now husband, and he already knew I was an actress because I was interning over at Ensemble when we met. And then I kind of laid it on him one night that I was a really big Star Wars fan and it wasn't going to go away. And he kind of confessed that he was a closeted Star Wars fan because he reads all the books, so he knows all the stuff. Yeah. I'm just the nerd that goes to like conventions and like, stuff like that. So I said, when we get married, the only thing I have to have in our wedding is the song Han Solo and the Princess. The brides have to walk to that because John Williams wrote it and it's brilliant. So that's a condition, right? I'll wear a really pretty dress and all, but this has to happen. And he said yes. So we got married, and then we moved to LA. So when I got to LA, I was really excited because suddenly they announced that they were going to make more Star Wars movies, like out of the blue, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is what's meant to be. I'm supposed to be here right now. So I start mailing the casting director headshots like every day. I'm like, you don't even understand. Like I need to be in this movie. I never hear from her. So then I find out that they're actually shooting in Australia. So I get on my Thomas Guide and I figure out how to get downtown and I get my passport and then I start sending her stuff every day and I'm like, now I can be a local hire. I'll get there. You just have to hire me. And that didn't work either. Strike two. So then one day, a very good friend of mine, I'm walking out of acting class, I had a Star Wars t-shirt on, and he says, have you ever seen the movie Troops? And I said, yeah, that's like the first legit fan film and it's really, really funny. If you haven't seen it, watch it. He said, some friends of mine are doing a sequel to it. They're going to do it like a documentary. The kind of hashtag quote line thing of it is it's an epic documentary about the best damn job in the galaxy. And would you be interested in being in it? So I'm like, yeah. So I meet these guys, and here to find out, they are going to do what was essentially supposed to be 9 pieces, but it actually is only 3 so far, because there's a lot involved. And these guys lived in this like dumpy little bungalow in Glendale, and it was amazing. It was like I imagined Industrial Light and Magic to be in the Van Nuys warehouse. I mean, they were like filled with ashtrays and like coffee and like computers and like models and like costumes and like just creative, genius, wacko everywhere. It was awesome. So we do the first one, and I do the voice of a sergeant, stormtrooper. So I'm doing a voice, but you don't see me. I'm in the armor, right? And by the way, if anybody remembers that they said Captain Phasma was the first female stormtrooper, Imps came out in 2005. Just saying. So then after that, they decided that I was such a big nerd and they liked having me around. They're like, you want to come back for number 2? And I said, yeah. And they're like, you're going to be in armor. And I'm like, yes, this is the best thing ever. So I show up. It's like 100 degrees in the valley. We're shooting in this like 400 square foot garage. And I've had like, I'm so excited that I haven't eaten all day. And I've had like 3 Red Bulls. And now it's like hour 11 and a half. And I'm like looking at the guy next to me and I'm like, right? And I pass out. So the next thing I know, I come to, and there are all these stormtroopers around me. And they're like, Tricia, are you okay? And I'm like, oh my God, I got to heaven, right? It was awesome. But they were all so afraid I was going to die, they didn't have time to take their helmets off. So I did get to go back for episode 3, and this time I play an Imperial officer, and that will be really awesome when it comes out. It hasn't come out yet. So flash forward to 20 years later, I have come home, and I never got a call from Disney or Lucasfilm. But I still believe there's a possibility, because the galaxy's not as small as it used to be. And I have a new hope, because I have this beautiful little 8-year-old girl who loves Star Wars like her mommy. And she has a lightsaber, and she has a poster of Rey on her wall. And after all, the Force is strong in my family.
One more time for Tricia.